Having a great week. I am back this week with the amazing Joe Del Monte, personal financial consultant and coach, and we are back for part 2 of our Money and Mindset series, The Path to Mental and Financial Freedom. Welcome back, Joe. Good morning, buddy.
Thank you. Keep bringing me back. We got good stuff to talk about today, don't we?
We do. We have some really good things to talk about today. And if you guys are tuning in for the very first time, you're listening to the Mental Fitness Matters Show, and it's a show designed to provide you with tips, strategies, and solutions on improving your mental health and mental fitness. And I have teamed up with Joe Del Monte because he really is an expert in the financial and wealth world. And my background is more in the mental health space. And we are really seeing the correlation between money and mental health. So we've created this 4-part Money and Mindset series. We did part 1 last week. So if you missed last week's show, don't hesitate to tune back in. You could always go to tracyalston.com, or if you're a podcast listener, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever your listening platform is, all shows are uploaded there so you would never miss a show. We encourage you to go back and check out part 1 if you missed it. That was on thought patterns that are keeping you and your money stuck. So with this Money and Mindset series, we really are trying to create a platform for people to get control over their money and their wealth. Getting control over your money and your wealth. So we're going to get right into part 2 today, okay? And that's going to be getting back in control. We're going to provide you guys with practical ways to form healthier mental and monetary behavioral patterns. Joe, let's talk about this because I think as we are doing this series, it's really important for our listeners to understand the connection between our money and our mental health. There is a correlation there, mental health and money. It all goes hand in hand. Money doesn't equal happiness, but it can have a huge impact on different areas of our life. And one of those things really being our mental health, relationships, social ability. So let's kind of get into this. As we talk about getting back in control for part 2, let's first kind of start with some of those pain points that we might can see the impact that money can have on our mental and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. The statistics are out there that show that people who have money problems are more likely to have marital problems. And now you could say maybe correlation doesn't mean causation, meaning the money doesn't cause the divorce, the money problem doesn't cause the divorce, but gosh, it's certainly a weight.
Oh my gosh.
And I've experienced that in my own life, and I know a lot of my clients have as well. So you just look at marriage alone or relationships alone. Maybe it's the relationships you have with your children who are grown, and you don't like the way that they take care of their money or not take care of their money, and you would have them do something different. It causes conflict in a relationship, and it adds a layer of stress and anxiety that is not normally there.
Yeah, and then when we talk about stress and anxiety, when we talk about that financial stress can really begin to it can have negative impact on cash flow, which when we talk about some of those things, 75% of U.S. adults live in a so-called stress brain state, which is a situation where they feel stressed out all the time. So if people are coming home with high levels of stress and you're in the midst of family and relationships, everything can kind of suffer when you're looking at it like that. And as we're talking about really identifying ways to get back in control, we want people to understand that any area of your life, when you feel like things are out of control, whether that's in your financials, whether that's in your physical health, whether that's in your mental health, whether that's in your social life, any area of our lives that get out of control, it's important to be able to kind of start to have these conversations, because a lot of times what we tend to do is ignore or act like the problems don't exist.
Yes, they're other people's problems. They're not ours.
They're other people's problems, right? Yeah. We turn a blind eye.
That's right.
Sweep it under the rug. Yeah, a lot of these things building up can cause some of the other things that are popping up for people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's I guess can I share a story?
Yeah, please do.
So this is a personal story. I like to throw my cards on the table, so I'm a terrible poker player because I do that. But just to show you the impact of money in a relationship, in a good relationship. So in my marriage, it was some years ago that I'd done some real estate deals and things like that over the years. And so it was a handful of years ago, and I wanted to do another one. I found a deal, and I told my wife, okay, I came home, I said, hey, found a good deal, and we're going to do this real estate deal. And she's like, okay. She says, you could do it, but don't spend any of our savings, and I don't want you taking out additional lines of credit to do the deal. You can finance it through the bank and do whatever you're doing. I said, okay, and guess what I did? Yeah, I'm that guy. So I did it. I did all those things, and in my mind, I'm thinking, you know what? She'll thank me later. This is going to work out. I'm the money guy. I know what I'm doing. It's worked before, and I'll just show up and buy her something really nice, and she'll be like, wow, you're so smart. Do whatever you want with our money. And it definitely didn't go that route. So the deal didn't go as I wanted it to, and I got left with some debt that I committed to. And I thought, well, I'll kick it down the road and I'll leverage it and do something else. And so here, years later, it's like I still have this debt. And I'm like, where's this from? And she's like, well, I could tell you. You know what I mean? And so I say all that, it's kind of joking now because it's way past us. But at the time, and for actually a number of years, the decision I made with money to not include her and to kind of do it my way despite what she wanted, I didn't compromise in that. I just went and did it. That caused a lot of stress and damage to trust in the relationship. Now we have a phenomenal marriage, and we've had our ups and downs like any marriage, but that wasn't a point of contention where trust was damaged. And so the decision around money, one decision cost me lots of time. And everybody knows when you destroy trust in a relationship, most people think it's just through infidelity. That's the only way to do it. No, it's through lying. It's through, doing something with money and not telling your spouse about it, or whatever the case is. That has a lasting effect that now you got to work over time to get that back. And so, it absolutely does correlate to you making decisions together, recognizing that money can either be something that unites you two, where you become partners, or it could be a wedge in your relationship. And you might not know what it is until years later, and you look and say, oh, shoot, now I'm trying to repair something.
Right.
So, and I've know a lot of people that have had similar experiences. So I share that to say, don't downplay the weight that your decisions around money have in the relationships with those that are closest to you.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing you kind of talk that through, and not only that piece of it, but not downplaying the value of being able to kind of open up and communicate about what the needs are, what the plans are, and having that open line of communication with the people, your partner, your spouse, so that way everybody's on the same page.
That's right.
Because as you just described, a level of trust was broken, which is going to cause additional problems in the mental health space.
Absolutely.
So that's powerful.
Big time. Big time stress that's added that, quite frankly, you don't need to add.
Yeah.
Relationships are tough enough, Tracy. I mean, you know that. Gosh, every relationship, whether it's with your parents, your kids, your cousins, doesn't matter, your boss, your spouse, they're tough enough with all the outside influences in this world. Then you do something that you think is, it's just money. Like, money is just, it's over there. It's not an emotional thing. It's just a dollar bill and a coin and a credit card and whatever. And you don't realize that, no, that thing is a wedge if you allow it to be in many areas of your life. And sometimes it's a wedge with yourself, which is probably that's more on your level. That's too deep for me to go. But you know what I mean? Sometimes it can cause you to look at yourself and say, gosh, like, what the heck is wrong with me?
Absolutely. Because kind of like when we talked about, as these shows are going to kind of blend together here, when we talked about in topic 1, thought patterns and beliefs around money and how people attach money to value of themselves or not, right? So I think those things are big. And when you're talking about money and relationships, the self-esteem piece of that, how are you coming to the table and what does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. What does that value hold to you? And so I think as we're talking about money and relationships in this sense, being able to rely on your partner, right? Yes. Being able to be in a good mental space and feeling as though the partner in your relationship can make good decisions.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about the mental health piece of that as well, it's like, okay, when we make these decisions around our money, what space are we in? How do we feel? Are we making decisions? Do we notice we make decisions when we are not feeling so good? Are those the poor decision making? Are we feeling at our best in making decisions that don't turn out so well with our money?
That's right. And are we making decisions that are we would feel comfortable sharing publicly?
Right.
Boy, that's a big one right there.
Yeah.
You know, if you told somebody what you did with your money,
Yeah.
would you be afraid how they would respond, or would you be proud to tell them what you did?
Yeah. That's powerful. You know, and so when you think about that, as you stop and think about all of these things, it reminds you to go back and pause. And so, as we said at the beginning of the show, when we're talking about getting back in control in any area of our life, I think the very first thing that we have to do is we're talking about if things are out of control, no matter what the area is, we got to sit down and take a look at it.
Yes.
We got to sit down and take a look at it and figure out, where did this train go off the track? And how do I use my relationships, my partnerships, professionals, if you need to bring in professional supports, how do we get the train back on the track and reassess where we are?
Absolutely.
Having the conversations.
Yes, having conversations and being proactive. And we got some tips that we're going to leave you guys with today to take proactive steps. And it takes some activity.
Yeah.
It takes some action, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to provide you guys with some practical tips that you can start right now from a mental and monetary standpoint to change your behavior patterns and get you on track. You are listening to the Mental Fitness Matters Show. We will be right back. Hey, welcome back. You are listening to the Mental Fitness Matters Show. I am your host, Tracy Alston, and I am here with Joe Del Monte, a personal financial coach. And we are on part 2 of our Money and Mindset series. Today's topic is on getting back in control, practical ways to form healthy mental and monetary behavior patterns. And before we took a break, we were just talking about some of those pain points, whether money can show up in your mental health and your relationships and how they all correlate and go together. So Joe, let's talk. So because money is something that we definitely need, right? It really is access to anything that we're doing, eating, shopping, going, living. How do we not allow money to be controlling our behaviors and our decisions? How do we get in control of something that really has a lot of power in everything that we do?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is we got to recognize that we actually give money control. We allow it to control us. We allow ourselves to slide into the perceptions that we think, you know, we need to live at a certain standard. We need to look a certain way. We need to drive a certain something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're not living this life, whatever that life is, I don't know. It's what people put on social media. then you're not getting it. You know, it's get money, hustle, why?
Yeah.
What are you talking about
Yeah.
right now? So it's like, take control back. How do you take control of something? You decide to be proactive on it. So you want to lose 50 pounds. How do you take control of your own body? You don't just decide in your mind, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. You decide that your refrigerator is going to look different starting today. You decide that treadmill's got dust on it. You're going to knock the dust off and get on it, right? You decide to take proactive steps. So there's some things that you got to do. Nobody wants to do them. But if you want to change the results, you got to do something different.
Absolutely. And so as I'm hearing you say that, as it relates to the topic we're on today, you can't control right now the amount of money coming in and out of your home. So you may have a job that's providing you a certain monthly amount. So that is what it is. But there's some things that we can do that may not necessarily be directly based on the amount of money coming in, but they're tied to your mental health, to your spending habits. And one of the things from a mental health perspective, I think people really can just start to take a look at of what we can control is, number one, our sleep. Our sleep. I don't think people realize the value of what sleep does in terms of how you feel the next day, how you power up. Sleep is a very restorative process. So really just kind of setting a game plan up to say, you know what? If we're going to do this together, if you have a partner that's with you in the home, being able to say, let's create a consistent sleep schedule. Let's start there. Let's take the money off the table. Let's get some habits that we can control through sleep, nutrition, and exercise and say, let's create a game plan around that to see if I begin to feel better, which allows us both to be happier, which then allows us to kind of have more mental energy to make better decisions.
Right.
You know, so there's some things that we can do.
Absolutely. And that's a simple thing, right? I'm a big proponent of afternoon naps. I don't get any of them, but I wish everybody would take one. But you know, sleep. We think, you know, there's no rest. You got to work to burn the midnight oil. If you're not up till 2 a.m. working and up at 5 a.m. back at it, then you're not going to be successful. I think that's a myth.
Yeah.
I think some people are built, they can operate on really low sleep, but it will catch up with you. And your brain, you know more about this obviously than me, but your brain is way more clear. There's more clarity, there's more focus, there's more creativity that comes in a rested mind.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and it reduces stress. And so when we think about stress around finances, if you can't control for right now the amount of money coming in and out, don't try so hard to try to change that. Go to the areas that are least resistant, where you have less stress around. Money is the money piece there, but yeah, don't try to let that be the thing that you're trying to change when you know right now income is what it is. So you go to something that's least resistant and say, you know what, can't move this needle, but how do I start feeling better? How can I, not like you just said, Joe, knock the dust off the treadmill and start just working on my physical health, allowing myself to feel better about myself, which is going to also help you attract other things that can lead to more money into your life.
And making better decisions.
Making better decisions. So taking the focus off of this big pain point of the money, let's switch gears a little bit. Begin to work on something that you can control. You know, but you may have an opportunity to change the income, which can help people set up some strategies at home with their spouse and setting a budget or some sort.
But if you're not rested enough, you're not going to have the creativity to recognize opportunity or the energy to take on an additional opportunity.
Absolutely.
So that's great advice is take the first step. That's the path of least resistance, things that you can change to at least start down that path.
Yeah, and because I think a lot of times, no matter what the goals are that we're setting for ourselves, we try to start with the thing that we feel like, this is the issue, so I have to start there. But a lot of times that creates this negative effect where it makes you stop and you do nothing. So let's just take a step back. Let's just start with the things and the basics, going back to what does my health look like? Because my physical health, my mental health, my financial health, they all go in this pattern.
Yes.
And if one or two are out of whack, you can also expect the next one to be following that same path.
Domino effect, absolutely.
Domino effect. So really, if you're alone in this situation, meaning you don't have a spouse or a family and it's just you, that's no problem either. Look at yourself and figure out some of the wellness goals that you can start with and say, you know what, how can I change some patterns in my eating? How can I change some patterns in my sleep? How can I change some patterns in the things that I'm doing socially to see if that helps me feel better? And then begin to see, as if you're feeling better, do you notice changes in your spending? Are you making better food choices? A lot of times when we're out and being active and exercising, we automatically begin to make better decisions in terms of what we're eating. Then we also make better decisions on terms of what we're spending on.
Yes.
So it connects.
It does. It does. And that leads to a tip that I would throw out is a practical way to start to get a control of your money is the word that you all are hoping that I don't say is budget. You need a budget. Everybody needs a budget. Budget's like this scary word. People think, well, if I have a budget, now I don't have control of my money. My budget's telling me. A budget is this. It's you telling your money where to go instead of your money telling you where it went.
Whew.
Tell your money where to go every month. And it's really this simple. By the way, if you don't know how to budget, if you're curious as to what that looks like, you need resources, email me, joed@parksidewealth.com. I have a lot of different resources I could send you. I could find something that's going to work best for you. But budgeting is this simple. At the beginning of the month, write down what you expect to spend in every category, all of your expenses, your mortgage, your car payment, your shopping, your food, all your variable expenses, and make that the target. At the end of the month, look backwards and say, what did we actually spend? And compare those numbers. And, okay, we thought we were going to spend $300 on going out to eat, and we spent $450. Well, you lost $150 somewhere. Man, it happens. Believe me, it happens. But if you're not budgeting, you don't even know it. And you get to the end of the year, you get 10 years down the line, you're like, why do I still have debt? Why am I not even close to retirement?
Yeah.
Because you're not preparing a budget. So start there. Does it take some work? Yes. You have to save some receipts? Yes. Suck it up.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You got to do it, right? You have to do it. And I will tell you this, the first 3-4 months, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be wrong. Your budget's going to be way out of whack. You're going to think you're spending this and you're actually spending that. Just keep going through the process. I promise you, after 3-4 months, maybe 6 even for some people, you're going to get on track. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more peace. You're going to know what you have going on. You have to start there and tell your money where to go.
I love that. And I love how you're kind of starting it out with a 30-day plan, just taking a look, create a plan.
Take a look.
So budgeting your money, budgeting your time, budgeting your physical fitness, budgeting your sleep. So when we think about this term budget, it's really just kind of creating that game plan of what am I able to spend? What do I have? And so if you give yourself 30 days, and as you guys are seeing, we're going through a 4-part series. So we'll be with you guys every week, until about July 9th. So we can kind of use this game plan moving forward and just start. Just start. You don't have to have it all figured out, but just start a game plan of I'm going to make some adjustments. I'm going to assess where I am and where I want to be, and I'm going to start somewhere. And whether that's just starting with creating that budget, looking at 30 days, then also creating a sleep schedule where you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to try to get in bed by 10 o'clock. I'm going to try my best to get in bed by 10 o'clock and waking up at a certain time. Giving yourself permission to start to create some boundaries and consistency in your life and begin to see if you notice how you feel. Does that make a difference in how you feel? And does that feeling correlate into how you spend and also what you're keeping and earning, right?
Yes. And do this with your spouse. Yeah. If you're married, do this with your spouse. Oh, my spouse doesn't worry about money. She doesn't want to bother with the money. Make her bother with the money. You have to. I tell you what, you don't think your spouse cares about money? Go spend your money on something selfish and expensive and show up at home with it. And you'll know real quick your spouse does care about the money.
Yeah.
So do this stuff together. It creates a unifying effect. You're in business together, and you can be accountable to each other, to the budget, and run your home like you run a business. And you'll have a lot more success and a lot more peace, which I think is ultimately what people are looking for, is peace.
Absolutely. Guys, you have just tuned in to part 2, Getting Back in Control, practical ways for your mental and monetary health. Tune in next week for part 3. We're going to be talking about building mental and financial wealth, setting the right goals and creating the right plans. So we're going to get a little bit more specific on how you can kind of create these goals, guys. Go out and shine bright like the stars that you are. Joe, great to see you. I'll see you next week, my friend.
Been fun. See you next week.
Awesome.